You ever seen Hunt for Red October? What if I told you that it's based on factual events? Now, what if I told you that the main character for these factual events was a certain Valery Sablin from a certain schizo mod from a certain schizo game? Now, what if I told you that this madman originally mutinied with the intent of toppling the entire fucking Soviet government? If this piques your interest, then whoo boy, do I have a fucking story for y'all today. Valery Mikhailovich Sablin was born on January 1st, 1939 in Leningrad in the Soviet Union. As you may know, there is possibly no worse time to have been born in fucking Leningrad. Sablin came from a long line of military officers, with both his father and grandfather having had careers in the navies of Russia. So naturally, his life pretty much had only one outcome. Him being born post-revolution also led to him being raised as a staunch communist, and importantly, he became extremely Puritan regarding his beliefs. Communism was the shit in his eyes, and he was very much willing to die for his country. He took after communism in theory and absolutely fucking despised people who would abuse the system that he genuinely believed in. He also hated anyone who was a general asshole, so overall he was a pretty stand-up dude. This had the side effect of making him very vocal regarding his opinions from a very young age, and coincidentally he was never taught the phrase talk shit get hit, so he would never hesitate to bitch at someone if he felt they deserved it. But never forget, Soviet Union, so this will come back to bite him in the ass severely in the future. Anyways, he was pretty much raised on the ocean and in the naval base, so naturally his life would be devoted to the sea. He survived the Second World War, miraculously, and in 1955, at the age of 16, he would attend the Frunze Military Academy, intent on becoming a naval officer himself. He was apparently a star student, and as I said previously, was super communist and expressed genuine belief in the ideals that were preached to him. As he got older though, he realized that there was an unfortunate difference between the communism of Lenin that he was taught about and the communism of the Soviet Union. You see, the Soviet Union was comparatively a shithole. Stalin's reign of terror and World War II left the place bereft of several million bodies. Forced collectivization had nearly torn the country apart, and it still wasn't industrialized to the same degree as the West. The government was full of fat cat bureaucrats and corrupted politicians that cared more about themselves than the ideals they claimed to represent. Large portions of society were still characterized by extreme inequality. Democracy was pretty much non-existent, despite that being one of the key tenets of socialism initially. They literally developed a class system in a supposedly classless society. Overall, as far as communist idealism goes, Soviet Russia missed the mark by a fucking mile. For our golden boy Sablin, this was not a good state of affairs. Now, the smart man in this situation accepts this and keeps his mouth shut. Sablin, coincidentally, was not a smart man. You also, coincidentally, do not necessarily need to be smart to be based and gamble a little. Now, to be a gambling man, you generally gotta know when to hold 'em, know when to fold 'em, know when to walk away, and know when to run. Sablin instead insisted on holding every damn time. Which, I mean, I respect a man who holds on to hope even when he's lost, but that's besides the point. Point is, he was getting fed up with the Soviet government's bullshit, and he was gonna fix things or die trying. In 1959, when he was 20, he wrote a letter to Nikita Khrushchev, politely asking him to purge the Communist Party of all of the fake-ass corrupt assholes and at least try to make this whole socialism thing work. Yeah. Surprisingly, he wasn't immediately hanged for insubordination and inciting treason, nor was he thrown out of the Frunze Academy. He got lucky, only getting what I imagine would be the dressing down of a lifetime from just about everyone he fucking knew. Despite this, he still graduated with honors from the academy in 1960. The next few years were rather simple, with him getting married and having a son, and seeing him serve on various warships in officer positions, with him making lieutenant commander and being offered a commission as commander of a destroyer in 1969 at the age of 30. As far as career progression goes, that's pretty fucking good. Much to the chagrin of just about everyone though, he turned this down, instead deciding to enroll in the Lenin Military Political Academy to become a naval commissar. Sablin had much bigger ambitions than just being a destroyer captain, and a rudimentary understanding of the clusterfuck that is politics is a necessary precondition for getting a little loud. For normal people, a politicized military is designed to enforce loyalty to the state and the ideals that it supposedly fights for. Indoctrination is usually the easy part. Sablin, however, is not normal people. Being fed the complete works of Marxism did not ingrain the righteousness of the state in his mind, rather it had quite the opposite effect. He would read about how communism is supposed to work, with everyone working together for a common good, creating a society where there is no poverty, inequality, or war, and then he'd look out the window and see the Soviet Union and go, what the fuck? We're supposed to be working together, yet secret police run circles around the population and basically exist as a tool of oppression? We're all supposed to be equal, and yet somehow this Hermann Goering-looking motherfucker is leader of the country? Why the hell do breadlines exist in a state where the people are supposed to own everything? If the West is so decadent, why do we have to sink to their level of wars and nukes and a bloated military-industrial complex? How the fuck did we stray so far? And so, our good boy Sablin found vindication, and determined that the only solution was to rip this bitch up from the root. Buckle your seatbelts, ladies and gentlemen, because Sablin's wild ride only ends in death or a third Russian Revolution. In 1973, he would graduate from the Lenin Academy and would be assigned as political officer to the Staroshevoy, a Burevestnik-class sub-chaser frigate. Staroshevoy, for reference, means sentry. As commissar, it was his job to do the whole propaganda to indoctrinate the sailors and keep them in line thing. He did technically do this, however, with a bit of a twist that grew increasingly critical of the current state of the Union as time progressed. And since he was technically the hand of the KGB on the ship, the only person with the authority to report him was, well, him. For 2 years, he fermented dissent, until one fateful day in 1975, he decided to stop pussyfooting and act. On November 8th, the Sentry pulled into port at Riga to participate in a ceremony commemorating the anniversary of the October Revolution. Later in the evening, he pulled a confidant of his aside and went over his plan. Essentially, the government has failed and communism has failed. We're gonna sail to Leningrad and get on the radio to address the nation to incite a revolution against the false socialists in Moscow. Then, when they are all thrown from their ivory towers, we're gonna have a do-over, and this time we will do it right. Surprisingly, this guy was on board, at least for now. The captain of the vessel was locked in a room, and Sablin went to address the men. He apparently played the movie Battleship Potemkin as an inspirational piece, I suppose, and then went over his plan with everybody. His plan to build a more perfect union, where power and justice are back where they belong, in the hands of the people, where every man is free to think, to act, for himself. Fuck all these limp-dick lawyers and chicken shit bureaucrats. Fuck this 24/7's propaganda spew of disguised corruption and political bullshit. Fuck the proletarian dictatorship. Fuck the secret police. Fuck all of it. Russia is diseased, rotten to the core. There's no saving it. We need to pull it out by the roots. Wipe the slate clean. Burn it down. Well, maybe he didn't say exactly that, but you get the point. Reactions were mixed initially, but most came around, and the officers that didn't were locked up with the captain. He then set course for Leningrad. Now, by all accounts, he was playing with bad odds. He's holding a 7-2 with nothing on the flop. However, things may not have been as bad as they seemed. Popular discontent within the Union was rising dramatically around this time, and in reality, Sablin was just saying what many people were thinking. The Union was rotting from the inside. So desperate were they to appear strong to the outside world that the very descent the Union was founded on was being smothered, and the country was bankrupting itself in a suicidal arms race with the United States. No matter how strong an arm the government had, people would notice. Sablin's attempts to instigate a popular uprising very well could have succeeded had he made it to Leningrad. All he needed was for nobody to narc on him and he would be good. Of course, though, there's a reason we're talking about the man in the past tense. As the ship left port, one of the officers they had jailed managed to wrench himself free and did the only thing he realistically was going to do in this situation. Narc like a little bitch. Sablin immediately knew he was fucked, but he decided to hold the river anyway, and attempted to make a mad dash for Leningrad. When the news of this ordeal reached people higher in the chain of command, everybody promptly flipped the fuck out. Leonid Brezhnev himself was shaken awake in the middle of the night by some understandably very concerned bureaucrats and naval officers, and at 4 a.m. on November 9th, he ordered the fleet in Riga to get this shit under control, fast. 10 aircraft and 13 warships were scrambled and gave chase, catching up with the ship in the morning, and firing several warning shots in her direction. The pursuers radioed the sentry and told the crew that they would be spared if they gave up Sablin and surrendered, and initially the crew told them to shove it. However, airplanes are overpowered as fuck, and one of them managed to nail the sentry and knock out her rudder, leaving her and Sablin drifting dead. At this point, the crew realized the jig was up, and someone let the captain out, who went to the bridge and shot Sablin in the leg, before paratroopers and the KGB boarded to take over the situation. Everyone on board was immediately arrested and promptly detained, tortured for information, brought to trial, freed, then had their lives permanently ruined by the state. The KGB also went around suppressing any and all information about the uprising to avoid giving anyone ideas. So the ordeal was branded as a group attempting to defect to the West and nothing more. Sablin, however, had it rough. A political officer attempting a revolt was unheard of, and so they sought to deal with him permanently. He was interrogated every day for 9 months before being brought before a show trial, being found guilty, and being sentenced to death by order of Leonid Brezhnev himself. A few weeks later, on August 3rd, 1976, he was put against the wall and shot. He was 37 years old. His family was not informed of his death for several months, with the KGB waiting until statute of limitations ran out so that they would be unable to ask any questions or retrieve any belongings. He was buried in an unmarked grave in an unknown location location. A few days prior to his execution, Sablin was allowed to write one final letter to his son, and his words prove that he was a man of principle and optimism to the very end. Trust the fact that history will judge events honestly, and you will never have to be embarrassed for what your father did. On no account ever be one of those people who criticize but do not follow through their actions. Such people are hypocrites, weak, worthless people who do not have the power to reconcile their beliefs with their actions. I wish you courage, my dear. Be strong in the belief that life is wonderful. Be positive, and believe that the revolution will always win. That about does it for this video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you around.